Running back preview, part 1. Here we go on Fantasy Football Today in 5. I'm Adam Azer with Jamey Eisenberg. Welcome to the show, everybody. Please tell your friends about Fantasy Football Today in 5, the best 5 minutes of fantasy football advice you're going to find. All right, Jamey, give me your running back strategy. Go ahead.
I like to take good ones that don't get hurt, that catch the ball a lot, that score a lot of touchdowns. It is a very good strategy to employ. Get those running backs that are perfect.
You must win a lot of leagues with that.
I never lose.
All right.
I take running backs if I try to take one generally in the first round. If I don't get to the middle to the end and Kelsey's still there, I don't have a problem going running back. I would like to have at least one top 12 caliber running back with my first 3 picks.
One top 12 caliber running back with your first 3 picks. Now, do you usually have 2 running backs with your first 3 picks?
I end up with a lot of leagues where I have 2 because I do think the receiver, the caliber of wide receiver that I get in round 4, round 5 is still very good. And you know what the running backs tend to look like when you start living in the Miles Sanders, Josh Jacobs, Mike Davis, Travis Etienne, Myles Gaskin world. They all can be very good, but there's so much risk involved that, if you're not taking those guys or, in some cases, like a Gaskin, for example, maybe is your number 3, or Etienne is your number 3 running back. If you have to rely on a guy like Miles Sanders or Josh Jacobs, it could be a little risky.
Miles Sanders, Josh Jacobs, Travis Etienne, Daryl Henderson, Myles Gaskin, Mike Davis. I feel like these are the options that you might be looking at in round 4. Do you like any of them?
I mean, I do. I would prefer them in round 5 personally, but they're not going to be there in a lot of cases. But maybe Davis is, maybe Gaskin is. Etienne, certainly non-PPR, maybe in some cases in PPR. But, it's just a matter of how you build your team. If you build your team with those first 4 picks being 1 running back and 2 wide receivers, or potentially you go receiver, then maybe one of these guys has to be, your number 2 running back if you don't want to just lean into 0 RB or at least a modified 0 RB. So I like to avoid that group if I can, but I have no problem if I'm sitting there in round 5 and Myles Gaskin's still there. I'll take him as my number 3 running back all day long.
All right, I want to get into this now because we just did our part 1, our full-length show. And you said...
True lies.
Yeah, we did at the very end. Somehow we got into the top 5 Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, and it was really fun. You called Miles Sanders your bust. So here's my problem with your argument about Miles Sanders. I don't really have any faith in Boston Scott or Kenneth Gainwell or whoever else is behind him right now. I just feel like that's the coaching staff getting these guys involved. If they really want to have a good running game, they should just give the ball to Miles Sanders. I think he's head and shoulders better than everyone else.
I agree. I totally agree. But, Nick Ciriani, he came from a system where they had a pass-catching running back and they took the starter off the field in certain cases. I think if they had their ideal situation in Indianapolis, they probably would have used Marlon Mack before he got hurt in tandem with Jonathan Taylor throughout the season. Miles Sanders. So we had Brian McFadden, former NFL player, one of our NFL analysts on CBS Sports HQ. And he was with the Eagles and he said that they really like using multiple guys because they don't want to get Sanders hurt because he's had a problem with injuries over the last couple of seasons. So I think we're going to see, multiple guys in that backfield, which makes some sense. I still think Sanders is the best guy. I still think he's going to be a borderline number 2 running back. I haven't ranked that way, but he just feels a little icky when you see him as the 36th player off the board overall based on certain average draft positions.
Yeah, I do think he's going to share. I just don't know how much of a threat those other guys would be. But okay, who are some guys that you're taking late?
Oh, man. 2 guys in particular or I'll say 3 that I'd take, late for sure. Daryl Williams is one. Xavier Jones is another. And Samaje Perine. You could see a path where they can all be the starting running backs on potentially good offenses. Obviously, Daryl Williams and Xavier Jones, if they get the starting job. I think the Bengals offense is still going to be good. So Samaje Perine, he's the 3rd guy of that group. But those are guys I'd take late. Maybe a step above that would be the group of Jamal Williams and Gus Edwards and Latavius Murray. I don't know how late you're referring to, but I tend to take a couple of these guys because I do think that they have lottery ticket appeal. You've heard me say this for years. You want to get one of those type of players if you can wait it out to start your team. But if they hit, as we saw with Daryl Henderson already, for those of us who drafted Cam Akers early and didn't get Daryl Henderson, we have a situation unfolding in Detroit where DeAndre Swift is missing practice time. If J.K. Dobbins misses any time, if Alvin Kamara misses any time, there should be a different word than just lottery tickets or handcuffs for the players that are going to play. AJ Dillon, Gus Edwards, Jamal Williams, those type of guys, because they'll be in the flex conversation certain weeks. But if an injury happens to the guys in front of them, they can be absolute stars. And the same thing goes for, Daryl Williams or Xavier Jones or potentially Samaje Pierre.
And I was asking you about late. Well, it's 11:15, so it's kind of late. So we got to go right now. I hope everybody enjoys this episode of Fantasy Football Today in 5. And please check out the full-length episode, 2 parts, previewing running backs this week and wide receivers. And we'll answer your emails at fantasyfootball@cbsi.com. For Jamey, I'm Adam. We'll talk to you tomorrow on Fantasy Football.